You're listening to UnitedWeStrike.com radio on the International Community Radio Network.
And we are now live. Matt, it's all yours.
Okay, sorry. I hate to step on your toes there, Gary. Thanks, everyone, for tuning in to the UnitedWeStrike.com radio marathon. It is Saturday, December 14, 2013. My name is Matt Navarro, host of the New World Order Report. And we have this section at the end of our broadcast anymore, and they've turned out to be really enlightening, good discussions of various topics from the various hosts that we have here at United We Strike that we are so privileged to have. It's called our Roundtable, and tonight we have so far with us Dean Lloyd, Am Rosen, Dinah Everett-Snyder, Lark in Texas, and Gary Hendershot. And what we do is we go around the table, so to speak, our virtual table, and we're spread out all over the United States here. Sometimes you'll have Vinny down there in New Zealand join us. But anyway, today we'll go around the table and let us give our thoughts on what's on our minds tonight, and then we can, if we have time later, open it up to a more wider, broader discussion. But these parts of our broadcast have really become quite interesting, and to me, good radio. I like listening to these folks. So I wanted to thank Gary first off for his hard work today and long hours of production. It's not easy doing what he does. So we were missing Alan James from OIM Radio. He's one of our producers as well. He's out with a family outing. So he and our good friend Detlef had to produce longer hours today, and I wanted to say a big thank you to both of them for stepping up to the plate and making sure that we were on the air on this final episode of our UnitedWeStrike.com radio marathon for 2013. So right now, let's go around the table. Everyone say hello. Dean Lloyd, welcome.
Thank you, Matt. Good to hear your voice again, and good to hear all the different points of view on the show. We just keep getting better and better.
I think you're right. And this hour of radio will be a demonstration of that. Am Rosen, say hello to our audience.
Oh, greetings, everybody. It's a pleasure to be able to share with you and be here, and ho, ho, ho.
Dinah, welcome. Always good to have you. I know you got a lot to talk about tonight.
Hi, everybody. It's nice to hear from everyone. I actually also got to listen in today a little. And, it's a fantastic show. It's only a pity we have it once a month.
Yeah, that's true. I think the world would be a better place if there were more UnitedWeStrike.com broadcasts. Lark in Texas, welcome back.
Well, I'm here. Forgive me, I was on mute.
Yeah.
Well, thank you very much. Glad to be
here.
Radio work.
Yeah, thank you. Radio works a little better when you're not on mute, Lark.
That's what they tell me. I'm always learning.
And we've got Gary Hendershot, our great producer.
Yeah, I'm sitting here in my secret underground bunker just 12 miles south of Washington, D.C., trying to keep my head down, stay out of trouble. But, on the internet, I am Smart Scarecrow, and you can search YouTube, you can do a quick start page search, and frankly, if you're really interested in hearing any of my nonsense, I'm easy enough to find. But I tell you, Matt, I do have to take a moment to apologize to Deborah Tavares. I mean, I really screwed up the handoff and cut about 10 minutes into that woman's time, and that's a bad one to cut into time for, because she has always got so much good stuff to put on the table.
Indeed, and and she can go for a full hour and still need more time. Looks like Suzanne's available now, so if she can join us, so we'll say hello to her. So if you want to bring her on. And okay, so let's go around the table. We did this last month. A lot of times I pick a topic for us to discuss, and then we kind of have this nice intellectual banter about things. But last month, we went around the table and had everyone just go on for a few minutes about what was on their mind, what's important to them. We're speaking to an international audience who may not be listening live. They may be listening on a podcast. So with, everything going on in the world, with the New World Order reaching greater depths on a daily basis. For our audience, share with us what's on your mind. What is important for them to consider at the end here of 2013? Let's go back around. Let's go back around. I'll get to Suzanne next, but let's start with Dean Lloyd.
Thank you, Matt. Good to be here with you all. Intelligent, asking good questions, and ever more enlightened as we go along the path of life. I would like to talk about the holiday, the holy day, and what's happening in a culture that has been losing ground in energy. Most of what I see with patients that come to me, they almost always are suffering from a lack of energy. And this time of year, we're getting close to the winter solstice, of course, and we have less and less light, less and less sun energy, and gives us the opportunity to look into ourselves, the deeper part. What's the dark part? What's what's slowing down in us? And I find this to be a celebration for me very often to catch up with myself. And I'm finding, and I have for many years, seen that people do anything but that. They're frantic. They got to get this done and that done, and expectations are high on them. But I've been changing over the years, and Gary, I did hear your plug there about how you're not commercializing the holiday, and I commend you for that. Making it so you're not paying into the corporate world. Good for you, man. But what I'd like to focus on is the energy that's coming in. It's something new. People are finding the values are shifting because what they've been doing hasn't been, for the most part, as far as the commercialism side, hasn't been really satisfying. You get the immediate surprise that something gratifies you on a material level. But what are we really trying to achieve for the holiday? What gives me energy, just a little sharing here, is the quietness in my mind, the being able to collect myself. What did I do the past year? How is this a celebration for me? And I've been enjoying the simpler things as I get older. It's much easier to please me with simple things. And I don't know how you all feel about it. I thought I'd set the tone for the show by saying that I've been noticing people that are coming in the holiday, but their energy is low. I noticed it last year, too. And I'd like to see more of a festive energy for the happiness of just being present with each other, and I hope that carries over. Some of the things that we do, the little things we do for people, means so much. I'm getting all the stuff out in the mail. It may have, kept me up till 2 a.m, but I did it, and I'm glad I did, because it's coming back. In other words, the energy goes to the people that I care about and love, and it's easy for me to do those things, even though it may have to be squeezed in the schedule. But that's what's on my mind, Matt. I didn't want to take a long wind. I have an appointment here at 6 o'clock Mountain Time. But I wanted just to set the tone. I hope it fits in with everybody's mood tonight.
Actually, I like your point about the energy and trying to make it a better energy around the holidays. Because that'll feed into what I'll talk about at the end here, what's on my mind. So thank you for your thoughts. I would tend to think that wintertime is a downer for most folks in the northern hemisphere because of the lack of light. But I think perhaps too, we live in such a toxic society with the chemicals in the water, air, food, GMO foods. People aren't getting nutrition, and might account for some of that too. Suzanne, how do you say your last name?
Posel.
Posel. Okay, Suzanne Posel wasn't here at the beginning to give herself an introduction, though. So you can say hello, Suzanne, and then tell us what's on your mind, or maybe pick up on what Dean was saying.
Hello, Suzanne. What's on my mind? Oh, geez, I'm constantly looking in the news. So, why Zuckerberg and a Russian billionaire are giving millions of dollars to mathematicians? I'm curious about that. Why the new Colorado shooter is describing himself as a Keynesian, went to Bible study, and was an avid gun enthusiast. what I'm curious about that. But for the holidays, I see it as I strip out all of the consumerism and all of the religious. Just strip all of that away and just spend time with my family, and use that as an excuse for everyone. Everyone's off. Everyone's got doesn't have to go to work, so we can all get together and share a meal and have a good time, and take some pictures. So that's all. I would hope that everyone would do that too. I think that's what's important. Everything else is just fodder.
Time with family, friends, loved ones, exactly, I think, is what we should focus on, or at least part of our focus should be on this time of year, if not all year round. But, this time of year has special meaning to everyone, and I like yours and Gary's approach of making this non-commercial, right? Or trying to take the commercialism out of it. I personally do that as well. I don't buy gifts anymore. I've been doing this for a lot of years, and it's very popular. I make my own smoked salmon. I brine my own salmon, and then I smoke it in the smoker, and I give that away as a Christmas gift, and people just kind of look forward to it and they cherish it because apparently I can do that pretty good. Am Rosen, you always talk about energy and how we change our energies. What is your thoughts for this evening?
Well, I'll continue with, thank you, Matt. Let me continue with the theme everybody's on, but I'll segue into it. There are basically three ways that people inadvertently have reflexed into handling the problems of a mind turned against themselves, where they're picking on themselves. And the first way is to try to lose your mind through stimulation and distraction. So you go to a movie, or you take a drug, or you do something social because you're trying to get away from this sense of yourself. Maybe the activity you indulge in juices you. Maybe Rocky puts on the American pajamas and fights one for the little guy, whatever it is. But when you come out of that stimulation that's distracted you, everything starts to reassert itself. Putting that into the context of the season, next Friday is the winter solstice, the day when the light is the shortest. After that, it starts to ascend again. In the midst of the darkness, because light certainly affects a lot of our neurological and metabolic systems, we celebrate the idea that the light will return. We light the fires, we light the candles, we make the ornaments glow because we want to celebrate. We want to dream the dreams. As Dean said, you want to do a little reconnaissance. What's happened since the last time I did this? What did I expect would happen? What new things did I discover? Where do I want to go from here? Because there will always is a time of rebirth. You're celebrating the light entering into the depths of the darkness. Through the ages, various people have come to personify aspects of light in human consciousness. The social ramification, Christmas. The birth of a level of consciousness is personified, beautifully personified and iconified as a quality of human dignity, as a quality of human growth, is someplace new to go, a more expansive state. And to celebrate that, to remind ourselves that there is joy, there is love, because that's what we want. We come up with little festive arrangements, which can be a lot of fun. The problem is not what you're doing, it's the state of mind. If you're going through the motions because you're supposed to go through the motions, maybe there's something will happen if I do this, you're missing it. So part of it is to find the richness, the warmth, and the joy, and rather than doing the thing, hoping it'll come, to find it and to project it through all of our activities, our celebrations, our communions, our coming together. So it is also a time, obviously, in nature when you're not supposed to be yay, yay, yay in terms of movement outside. It's an internal time, a reflective time, a time of warmth, of gathering close, and of sharing.
Well said. Yes, it is. But you can also, like you say, try to find that love there in your gatherings, even though this time of year has this commercial feel to it, right? This commercial aspect to it.
Well, the problem is this: we long for intimacy. We long to experience more of ourselves by the way we can share and bounce off of each other. But when you try to become more intimate, what keeps you from being, as somebody said, wish you could be like this all year round, you know? What keeps us from being intimate? It's these primitive patterns that have us scared, no matter what we say or how much we profess to the contrary. And when you seek to open up, you have to open up within yourself so that you can share it. And so we come up with, well, you're playing my game. We don't seldom have relationships the way we want, dynamic and intimate and growing. We have mutual conspiracies. Okay, you don't blow my covers, I won't blow yours. But that's boring. It kills spontaneity. So what we're looking for is to remind ourselves of how much is available to us that we're cut off from, then to understand what's keeping us from it, use that higher aspiration as like a logo, and start to move towards it. Get rid of what's in the way of it.
I agree. Very well said again. Dinah, I know you had some things on your mind that may not necessarily continue with this discussion, but welcome. And what's on your mind this evening?
Well, I actually am going to follow on what everybody else said, because you guys all have a very interesting theme going. And my theme is completely different, even though we all come together and we have very much the same outlook on things, and we get together every month, and I absolutely love everybody that's a part of this entire program. But I got to tell you that I've never bought into the construct of the Christmas season and the commercial aspect of it. Obviously, everybody knows I grow a lot of my own produce, and we have a lot of fruit trees and so on. So our year is very old-fashioned, very traditional, in that what's growing dictates the activities that we follow throughout the year. And so when we get to the end of the year, I do put together gift baskets for various people that we know of. I'll make a thing of pie dough, and I'll freeze it, and a thing of jam, and I do these deviled egg things because I have ducks, and I make a gift basket of all the produce that I've produced over the course of the year on my property, and those are the things that we hand out along with recipes. My kids put together glass jars of dry beans and spices and so on, so that someone can just empty it into a pot and make themselves a pot of soup. And you know, it's something that I was raised with, and when I came to this country, it was a novel gift. People were always very surprised, and it was sort of this unique thing that I did. And what's interesting over the almost 30 years that I've been here is that those of my friends that have remained my friends for the majority of the time that I've been here, you know, people I made friends with early on, have included and changed the way that they do Christmas and other holidays. And I notice how so many of them are now doing gift baskets of things that are more meaningful, as opposed to, you know, going down to the local store and swiping your credit card for something to hand out in this social norm of got to give a gift, you know. And so that's really been something that's resonated with me. Is not that I do it, but that I see that I have managed to influence other people to do something similar, you know.
Well, that's good. That's good.
Yeah, it is.
Most folks are in America terrify me when I see the videos from Black Friday, seeing the commercialism affect these people in such a way that they behave as if they had no moral compass, as if they were IQ's levels of average of 50. I mean, to have people like
to activate when a 6-year-old is accused of sexual misconduct for kissing the hand of a first grader. We can't get parents to get motivated and protest, but you can get them to camp out all night outside Walmart for the stores that open at 5 o'clock in the morning so they can get $10 off a 4G or 5G phone. It's sad. Yeah,
but you know, through efforts like yours and as parents and like Suzanne, hopefully that gives us a little bit of hope for this world. Gary was saying that, it might be a challenge to teach your kid the truth. He was talking with Vinny there. And I was thinking, no, you have to always teach the child the truth, because, even if that makes it more of a challenge for that child to continue in their life in a social fashion, he or she will find a way to defend themselves or make sure that they're not overrun by the falseness. You cannot, once you turn on that light of truth, you cannot turn it off. Lark in Texas, you want to continue this, or you want to talk about something else?
Well, I want to say that I really wish I had bottled that word hope. I think I'd be very wealthy today. I would only say that in that vein, I came across something on YouTube entitled An Urgent Message from Santa. And I thought I'd take a second and share this with you. And this, of course, is brought to us by Greenpeace. Regrettably, dear children, I bring bad tidings. For some time now, melting ice here at the North Pole has made our operations and our day-to-day life intolerable and impossible. And there may be no alternative but to cancel Christmas. I have written personally to President Obama, President Putin, all world leaders. Sadly, my letters have been met with indifference. So needless to say, these individuals are now at the top of my naughty list. Pretty creepy, huh?
That's totally funny as hell. That's
An
funny as hell.
urgent message from Santa. And of course, Santa is depicted as a homeless person with a long beard and a rather dour expression on his face. He's rather dirty and alarming looking.
It's just sad.
That's
But,
funny. You know what's funny about that is that what you just read was in a language that most children cannot read or understand anymore because of dumbing down in our schools. That's the irony I see here.
And the real irony, by the way, Matt, is that the polar ice cap is now at a 35-year high.
Imagine that.
And
Global warming,
Antarctica
man.
is just recorded the lowest temperature ever on the planet, minus 135.8 degrees Fahrenheit.
Now,
Now,
that was in
can
the
I
South
jump
Pole,
in?
right?
Can I jump in for a second? Because
Sure.
5 years ago, Al Gore said that the ice caps would be completely melted.
So
right.
where was that temperature? I heard about that record, but wasn't that in the South Pole or South Antarctica?
That was indeed. Yeah, it was, yes.
Okay, so tell me this. It's summertime down there right now. What does that tell you? What does that tell you? It's summertime in Antarctica, yet they record the coldest temperature ever experienced on Earth. That's, global warming. Gary, your thoughts?
Well, on Matt's theme with his making of the salmon, I got to ask you, Matt. Now you are using a Geiger counter on that salmon, right?
Yeah, well, it has been more of a concern to me that I was going to. Well, I was considering still getting a one of those radiation counters. Sure.
Yeah, I mean, you don't want to be gifting folks with glow in the dark salmon. That's probably not healthy these days. I obviously I have as much concern as many that so much of the food that comes out of the Pacific Ocean, which was a tremendous resource. And of course the salmon, they breed in those rivers, but they spend most of their life out at sea. And, salmon, darn, something as simple as salmon. I love this stuff.
I could get Atlantic salmon. There you go.
I'll tell you, it's almost gotta be. But, my wife bakes cookies. She bakes some of the best Christmas cookies you could possibly want. And when we are gifting folks at this holiday time of year, it usually involves homemade Christmas cookies. Now, I did get into a little trouble last year because apparently we do not have a food service style kitchen. We do not have a food preparation license, and we apparently have to pass some sort of environmental impact study for disposal of the yeast in some of the little cakes she does. So I'm not sure what we're going to do next Christmas. This year we're going to try and get in under the wire. But, in this highly regulated society that we're involved with today, you stop and you think, gee, these are the same Christmas cookies that my family's going to eat. They're darn good. I know they're fine. And, frankly, if you don't like my Christmas cookies, you can toss it in the trash. But they're made with love, and they're darn good. And anybody who tells me I can't gift somebody with homemade Christmas cookies has totally lost the Christmas spirit.
Wow. Who told you that?
It was a joke, Matt. Come on,
sorry.
man. Tongue in cheek.
Yeah, but whose tongue and whose cheek, Matt?
Well, okay, thank you, Gary. I appreciate that. Giving organic things that you make yourself, it can't get better than that. So my focus was, Dean, I don't know, serendipity has a way of making itself known. That you picked this subject, this theme, that seems to be hitting a note here, is exactly what I was going to talk about. Being that. Ooh, we got some feedback here. Folks. Dean, you might want to mute there. Thank you. Okay, so my subject is for about this holiday season, at least, and in fact, more broadly, is how we defeat the new world order. Okay, this is why we do what we do here at UnitedWeStrike.com. Our objective to unite everyone on the planet in non-compliance against the new world order is what we do, and that's why I focus on what I focus on my shows. Well, in the spirit that we do this, and why we should help our friends and families and our neighbors know about the New World Order, is to turn back this tide of evil that's upon us. And how do we do that? And in a single word, it's love, okay? It's been mentioned several times here in our discussion, but to me, I'll just give you my perspective. Love is more than just the emotion you feel between somebody you really care about or some animal you really have a relationship with. It's more than that. It's a greater consciousness. It's a greater energy. I call it God, okay? You might call it Allah or Buddha. You might call it the Force, whatever, okay? But that's the energy that we'll need to share with one another in order to reverse this New World Order. And if we tap into this energy worldwide and realize that we outnumber them who attempt to control us, then we shall start reversing the effects. We'll start being able to get GMO foods out of our grocery stores. We'll be able to get fluoride out of our water. We'll be able to stop these forced vaccinations. Okay? And with this energy called love, we can, if we can tap into that and spread that, we have the opportunity to save humanity from extermination. Okay? We're being exterminated like a little cage full of roaches. And that's what's happening to us. So I suggest we all imagine this thing called love and share it with our friends and family as we gather around this holiday season. If you love them, talk to them about GMO foods. Talk to them about vaccines. If you love them, talk to them about the chemtrails and the fluoride in water, so that they can know that they're being poisoned, so that they can make better decisions for themselves and their family. And the more people that do that, the better chances of us surviving this onslaught from the New World Order. So I thank all of you for participating in our roundtable and in our monthly shows. And it's because you all feel that same love and you really care and have passion. Now you stand out in crowds because you all have your own radio shows, and you should be very proud of that, because it's not easy to get up on the world stage and say, hey, I really care about this subject. Listen to what I say. So in that, we'll open the floor up to anyone who wants to have a voice now, and we'll just have a nice little discussion.
Could I, since you brought up love, let me offer a definition, if I may.
Sure.
I call love metagravity. It's the binding force of existence, of creation. It's that which draws you from wherever you are, whatever level of development and all the things that go into that where you're operating from, through whatever social circumstances towards the next more expansively encompassing space. You could dedicate yourself to solving a disease. And to that dedication to do something, to bring something finer, more that the world needs, that's love. You could want to express caring and feeling for another person. People do tend to confuse love, though, with emotional fixation, where they get a buzz. They ricochet into a finer state of mind where they're, oh, yum, they're expansive, but they don't want to lose it, so that what was I doing? They lock onto it. Confuse the state of mind, which we will call love in this case, with the circumstance. By trying to replicate that, they lose the very thing that allowed them to enter into it, which was the openness, the paying attention, the receptivity. And we've been talking about exchanging gifts and the rituals. Again, it's not what we do, it's the state of mind we're in. And people are desperate. They're hungry for that intimacy, for that sharing, but they seldom really feel secure enough to be able to allow themselves to do it. They don't feel integrated. Most people are running away, and they're looking for identification. Well, I may be stuck, but you're stuck, so we can relate. Now, we have organized ourselves in various ways, each of us individually, to look at the parameters, to see what's available, to what we're dealing with, and what would be a more succinct, a more comprehensive, a more beneficially constructive way of doing this, of contributing. Yes, we need to get rid of these things, but I would like to say, since love is metagravity, and this is the season for reminding ourselves, what we're looking to do is to move into a space where we kick out the jams. So we can take over the machinery, whether it's our individual neurological, metabolic machinery, or the social machinery, instead of letting the machinery, which it's doing right now, reflexively run us. And it's running us ragged right now.
Anyone else?
Who did that song, Kick Out the Jams? You know M.
I know the song, but
I wrote a song back in the 90s, or late 80s, early 90s called Kick Out the Jams. I have it recorded somewhere. Because
that was a mid-60s pop classic.
Really?
By somebody.
Huh. I must have gotten it by osmosis then.
Probably did, yeah.
One of my lyrics from a song ended in, and don't you see everybody shuffling around, lost in the illusion of their own underground? It's time to find who lies beneath the image of your bittersweet clown.
You've been listening to Moody Blues, right?
Oh, I inhaled them. I did an IV drip.
Exactly. I recently, this is getting off topic though, but I guess this is what these roundtables are for. I was recently re-listening to some old Moody Blues albums. Threshold of a Dream is one that I really like. It has some really, it's not like a rock opera, but it kind of is like that in that they tell you a story through their music there, and the Moody Blues were ahead of their time. These guys seem like they were influenced by a higher calling, a higher being. These guys were very intellectual, and then they just disappeared, right?
Of course you are, my bright little star. We've got piles and miles of your forefathers' fruit. And now, to suit our great computer, your magnetic ink. Wait a minute. I'm more than that. I know I am. There you go, man. Keep as cool as you can. Face piles of trials with smiles. It riles them to believe that you perceive the web they weave. Keep on thinking free. Yes.
Wait a minute, guys. You guys are all forgetting about the court of the Crimson King.
Oh,
Yes.
Oh, yes.
Remember.
The wall on which the prophets wrote is cracking at the seams. Yes.
Yeah.
By the way, that's the
real good
Michigan.
stuff.
That was the Michigan City 5, y'all. Kick out the jams, MC5.
huh. Can you put the
remember
link
them
in?
well, right, Gary?
Can you put that link in the chat room there, Lark?
Of course I can.
Yeah, but let's not leave out Lenin. People ask me questions, lost in confusion. I tell them that there's no problems. There's only solutions.
Yeah, well, that rhymes too. Only well, okay. So who else is what else is on your folks' mind? I mean, Dinah, you wanted to talk about.
I did.
You have a shot right here, so you wanna take a few minutes.
Pass the eggnog, yes.
Thank you. I was listening to you guys.
You're gonna have to get closer to your mic there, Dinah.
Really?
Yeah,
Is that better? Can you hear
a
me
little
now?
better. Yes, thank you.
Okay. Maybe I should turn the volume up a little too. It's interesting for me to listen to groups of people talking and when the topic turns to conformity and looking for love and looking for ways to fit in, because I have never had a yin to fit in. Fitting in has always felt like anathema to me. I've always been driven to march to the beat of my own drum. I've never been a part of a large collective. I've always seemed to have run really fast when the collective opened the door. So it's always curious to me when I hear this kind of talk, because I'm fascinated by it. And I think, it comes down to, in part, doing something that you really love, really being passionate about what you do. Because I think it was Suzanne that said, at this time when people are off for the holidays, and I was thinking to myself, off? People are off? I'm never off. I work 7 days a week, and twice a week I work a 30-hour shift because I work in 2 time zones. I sponsor a clinic in South Africa, and we have inpatient files and follow up on procedures and stuff. And in order to get through that, and in order to function adequately in the United States and not have piles of paperwork on my desk, I have to sometimes pull an overnighter. And I'm tired the next day, but would I change it for anything? Absolutely not. It's what drives me. I belong to various think tank organizations, and it's exciting knowing that we've got a roundtable discussion coming up and looking at the agenda and what's on the agenda. And so, what I see when I look around is people are not motivated by anything. They seem to really have lost their impetus and lost their interest in anything outside of themselves. And sadly, there are too many people that are not even interested in themselves. You ask them, what do you think? How do you feel? And you're greeted with sort of a blank stare while they plumb the depths of their mind to find something of themselves to offer forth, which is sad. I find it very sad. And there is something that I did briefly want to talk about, if I could, and that is, of course, the United States has been inundated with this unaffordable health care plan under Obama. And what's very concerning is Serco, this British multinational corporation, has been paid $1.2 billion to implement Obamacare's federal insurance exchange. What's so curious about them, well, there's lots of curious things about them. One is that they're being accused of fraud, and they're under investigation right now. Another thing that's interesting about them is that they were founded in 1929 as a United Kingdom division of the Radio Corporation of America, and initially provided services to the cinema industry here in the United States. Then they changed their name to Serco in 1987, and they're listed on the London Stock Exchange. And they have their fingers in so many pies in so many different countries. They do one kind of thing in Dubai. They do another kind of thing in Denmark. They do several things for the Dutch people and the royal houses. They're involved in the UK with royalty. They're in prison systems. They're in nuclear arms and nuclear laboratories. Very, very insidious. And to think that with the unemployment that we have in the United States and the companies going under and the very skilled people that don't have jobs, to think that we have to outsource something that is so important to Americans that we have to outsource it to a different country, and a corporation that's in a different country is very insidious. And when you look at the fact that their office in the United States is in Virginia, people, your alarm bell should be ringing, because Virginia is a Commonwealth state, and we have a few of those. Pennsylvania is another Commonwealth state. Massachusetts is another Commonwealth state. So is Puerto Rico and Kentucky. The interesting thing about Puerto Rico is that that is where the IRS, the Internal Revenue Service, is listed as a corporation doing business as the IRS in Washington, D.C., the District of Columbia. And if you Google United States Post Office Red Book, and you go and you poke around in there, of course, they always talk about the 50 states and the District of Columbia, which takes me back to Obamacare. 27 states have declined Obamacare. That leaves only 23 states. And when Congress was forced to pass this bill, they immediately exempted themselves, and there's very particular reasons why they did. Because Congress and all the people in Washington, D.C., the District of Columbia, are considered under Black's Law, which is the law that rules this country, they are considered the public, much like the Roman public and the Roman Senate. The people of the United States of America are considered the people. And you have to be very careful when you read the laws of this country, because there are very distinct differences between the things that are for the public and the things that are for the people. And unequivocally, this unaffordable health care plan is a mandate from a king. We do not have a king. We have a president. But more than a president, he's the CEO of United States Incorporated, which is therefore corporate infrastructure and not there at the behest of we, the people of the United States of America. And by signing up for this unaffordable health care mandate, we need to understand that we have been defrauded by United States Incorporated, the President and Congress, into when we sign up for this health care, we are constitutionally responsible for overthrowing what is left of our shredded Constitution. People are under the misguided notion that we have a Constitution, and we do not. We are effectively an arm of the Crown. We are the taxation arm of the Crown. And people need to really wake up to this and refuse to take on the responsibility of this healthcare mandate.
I agree with you entirely. I'm not surprised at all that it would be a British company responsible for rolling out Obamacare, because I, with you, agree that in my estimation, it is the British Crown who has the majority share of control over the New World Order. You have other banking families and interests there, but for the most part, the Queen is the seat of power over a large share of the New World Order. Just look at what the East India Trading Company did historically with the cocaine or the heroin trade out of Afghanistan, and then ask yourself why the United States military is there to protect the poppy production, which is up by record numbers. It is at historic highs. It is not because it is beneficial for the farmers there to be growing poppy so that they don't get in trouble with the Taliban. It is advantageous for the black drug trade that the CIA and the British Crown share in.
Correct. Well, even you look at American companies that are involved with this healthcare mandate. You look at something like Booz Allen Hamilton. Their stake of the corporate healthcare thing is only $2.668 million, and then you look at something like Verizon. Their stake is $1.193 million. Rand Corporation is just a little over $1 million, and Serco is $114 billion. Dollars. When you add in all the facts of what they're involved with under this healthcare thing and all the contracts that they're micromanaging, the amount of money is absolutely staggering. And something else that people don't know is that when it was looked at by the Supreme Court, the Supreme Court passed the healthcare plan on the premise that it is a tax. It was only because the politicians shamefacedly agreed that it was a taxation of the people that it was allowed to proceed. It is fraudulent and it is criminal. And despite the fact that they say that they will penalize people who don't sign up for it, if the majority of the population does not sign up for it, there is absolutely nothing that they can do. It is falling apart.
I don't know about that. I don't know that.
Absolutely,
in the Obamacare Act,
it's all about the numbers.
No, in the Obamacare Act, it calls for the hiring and deployment of 16,000 IRS agents. Those 16,000 IRS agents can visit and make lives miserable for a lot of people.
Oh, absolutely. You're absolutely correct. But it is
whether you participate or not, they've got a plan already in place, and these IRS agents are now have the capacity to carry their own firearms, right?
Yes, so does the Social Security Office, which is kind of interesting.
So I disagree with you that if enough people don't comply in this case.
It's never going to get off the ground, Matt, because in order for it to have worked, they needed to have at least 40% of the enrollees be the young and healthy people, so that in essence the money that was coming in would fund the people that were already sick and had pre-existing conditions. And because of the way their website itself just tanked and no one's really been able to deal with it, it's already floundering. And in that, there are impeachable offenses against the president, because since the healthcare was passed, he has made 3 amendments to the healthcare plan, which is against the Constitution as it stands. It didn't go back through Congress. It came out of the presidential office, the changes. And the way in which they justified that was, yes, well, it was unforeseen, and it's all because of, the issues with the website and the inability of people to sign up. But nevertheless, they are, in fact, impeachable offenses. But certainly, we have all of these IRS agents, and they have a lot of leeway at their disposal. This is it's an unmitigated event where we have now allowed the state as parent into our homes, into our personal information. I mean, the data mining that's been approved through the healthcare mandate is absolutely staggering. And it's a series of progressive steps, because if you understand that your primary care physician, for any visit that you go into the office for, has to fill out a mental health evaluation, which is sent off to a central database and evaluated by some faceless bureaucrat. And on the premise of that evaluation, you can have a SWAT team at your door if they cross-reference and see that you also have a license to have a firearm. You can have a SWAT team at your door to come and confiscate your firearm based on a miscellaneous healthcare evaluation that was given to you without your consent when you went in to have stitches in your big toe.
Interesting. Well,
I'm sorry. I was going to say there's a misnomer, though. It's not a healthcare system. It's a managed sickness industry, because the people that know about health have nothing to do with this system. This is meant to perpetuate a state of imbalance that is
sickness management.
Yes, it brings profit, and what you're talking about is the profit motive. People running it aren't saying what is better for these people, what will improve the quality of their lives, make them more productive, more creative, more happy. They're saying, how can we milk them, capitalize on them, drain them down, and conform them into the assembly line so we can keep selling the products. And this is part, Dinah, you spoke about the joy that you get from doing what you're doing, and that's a blessing. When you get to make a livelihood doing what you love, that's truly great. It invigorates you, energizes you. But a lot of people running these systems, they can't relate to themselves, much less to other people. It's easy when you want power and you don't have the creative intelligence to see how to resolve problems to try and put everybody everybody into the pocket you need them to be in so that you can maintain power. So the things you're saying are really viable. They're really helpful. But I don't think the public realizes because they're so scared, because they know so little. We talk about the dumbing down. Kids should be educated from grade 1, gradually, progressively, to understand their bodies, how the use of their bodies, how the seasons affects them, how the growth cycles affect them, how the kind of output, whether it's mental, emotional, or physical, affects them, so that they can learn to really get the best out of it. But that's not what we're selling right now.
No, absolutely not. I really do agree with you, Am.
We live in a system of arrested development.
Yes.
This entire agenda is predicated on pseudoscience and fraud. I invite anybody listening right now to watch something on YouTube entitled Psychiatry, an Industry of Death. Now, we talk about the black drug trade, but what about the white drug trade? We know darn well that a lot of that opium is needed for these psychotropic drugs. Many drugs that are available over the counter and just passed out like candy are based on derivatives of opium. And so let's not just say that they're protecting the black market for these distillates of opium. This is going into the entire. This is we talk about the medical model today. Well, it's based on a fraud. These people are involved in mass murder.
Yes.
It's called genocide.
And by the way, I want to point out a quote from a woman who used to have a medical license from the state of New York, who now lives in Panama. Her name is Dr. Jennifer Daniels, vitalitycapsules.com. It is my hope that one day people will be insulted to be referred to as a patient, and doctors will be embarrassed to admit in public that they practice medicine for a living. Then we will have progress. I'm going to tell it to you straight. Every member of my nuclear family is dead today. I'm not exactly celebrating this Christmas, nor did I celebrate the last several Christmases. And it's because they trusted their doctors. Now, this so-called Patient Protection and Affordable Care Act was an instrument of genocide or democide from the outset. It is designed to arrest the development, to thwart the human potential of anybody that's caught up in this system. It is an industry of death. And now we have something called ODD, Oppositional Defiance Disorder. We have ADD, Attention Deficit Disorder, which used to be known as multiple personalities disorder. I'm telling you, these people are actively engaged in pseudoscience and science fraud. And they should be, in my opinion, they're running nothing more than a vast criminal protection racket, which is some 18% of our economy today. Every human being that is involved in this criminal protection racket called healthcare is a fraud and a criminal. They're a zombie at the very least.
I agree.
I have nothing good to say about any medical doctor or nurse or anybody who works for these animals.
Yes, but there is a need for intelligence. I always tell people when they come to me, don't believe. You're employing my skills, my expertise in your behalf. I need to be clear. You should be asking questions. My job is, in part, besides seeing where the imbalances are and what's needed to coax the body back into its proper place, is to educate them, because most people know nothing about their bodies. They're scared of it. They're mortal. They can be hurt. They know nothing. And until we educate people, they're going to be susceptible to anybody that wants to lay a trip on them. Because
let's take our children out of the public schools. Forget about this whole idea of careerism and credentialism and this BS which is coming out of our colleges and universities today. Because I'm telling you, this is a criminal protection racket as well. And it is provable. It is provable.
Indeed,
on
you're
many
right.
different on many different levels.
But
And
let's
I want to remind you, this Patient Protection and Affordable Care Act goes to a communitarian doctrine called R2P, responsibility to protect. Protect what and from who?
Well,
And,
protect the
you
financial
know-
interests of the corporations
Structure. Yeah.
to maintain their control over all of us. So we're getting towards the end of our show here, folks, and I appreciate your impassioned arguments and impassioned points. It really invigorates me listening to all of you, and being able to just share time on the air with all of you is rather enlightening. And it's uplifting to me because it gives me hope that we're on the right track, you know. But let's go around the table. As Gary likes to say, give your website out or do some blatant self-promotion. We'll start with Suzanne.
Okay. OccupyCorporatism.com, RealGorillaMedia.com. I have a radio show, HardlineRadio.com, 2 days a week on the Time for Hemp Broadcasting Network, as well as iHeartRadio. Tuesday and Thursday, 1 to 3 Pacific Time. So come join me.
Thank you. Thank you for being a part of this. You know, your heart's in the right place, and your kids have a great mom. Am Rosen, your closing thoughts and websites and promotion there.
All right, thank you. Well, my website is www.lifegame.com, and that'll be going through expansion, but there's a lot of stuff there for you. There's archive access to a couple of shows, Evolving the Species, which is a roundtable, and State of Mind, Quality of Life, which is on Wolf Spirit. And let me say, and boy, I love questions. All these problems that we've been discussing, I know they can be sorted out. We don't want to drop out. We want to drop in and straighten out the mess. And that's a whole different motion. But I'm telling you, the problems that you find in your everyday life where you don't feel comfortable with yourself and the problems we have collectively, they are definitely soluble. And it's time for us to move into a much more expansive, finer state of existence. And happy holidays to all of you.
Thank you very much for your participation, Am. You're very well spoken. Maybe a little too advanced for some, you know, not so. Well, I would say public school attendees in America might not get what you say a lot. Okay.
Now, wait a minute. I got squawk
Well, if they
brains.
ask me the questions, I'll put it on whatever level they need it.
Hey, I got
You give
squawk
me your
brains. I
psychological
understood
guerrilla
him.
training, I'll talk to you there.
If he'd said it with a southern accent, I'd have understood every word he said.
Oh, well, absolutely, absolutely.
Yeah, Lark, you've got you're in Texas, but you don't really have a southern accent, do you?
Nah, I was born in the South, but I was raised in the Pacific Northwest.
There you go, and that's why you speak so articulately. Your websites.
It's entitled Just an American. It's not spelled as you might imagine. Lark in Texas, larkintexas.blogspot.com. May I leave you all with this? A quote from Terry, played by Marlon Brando, in On the Waterfront. Conscience? Oh, that stuff will drive you nuts. And here's one from me. Consciousness, spelled con-science, is not the same as consciousness or enlightenment, as consciousness in Western societies has traditionally been rooted in morality and moral precepts like the Golden Rule. Take away consciousness, the other kind, con-science, and traditional morality. Then remove the expectation of privacy and the right to the ownership of property, including that right to own your own mind, body, and the fruits of your labor. What have you left?
Well, I thought if you didn't have consciousness, you'd turn into Hillary Clinton.
Well, if you don't have property and you don't have a moral foundation of your life, and everything goes because everything is morally relative, then you are indeed a slave. And these are the two major things that these communitarians, these globalists, aimed to deprive all of us of. The right to consciousness, or traditional morality, and the right to the ownership of property and the expectation of privacy. Believe me, folks, when we lose these two things, we are indeed slaves. I'll leave you all with that.
Thank you for your closing thoughts, Lark. Very good to have you on the show. Yeah, we are indeed slaves if we don't think for ourselves. Dinah Everett Snyder, never at a loss for words. Your website, please.
Well, I actually want to just say that, we used to know this stuff. Am said people don't know, and so it's his job to help them. But I want to remind you that we used to know this stuff. It used to be called intuition. We used to follow a biorhythm that was very much in sync with our world, with the seasons. We have lost that, and we have lost it under the auspices of the prosperity paradigm, this notion of progress, which is a false paradigm, and it's one based on scarcity, a dearth of values, a dearth of moral fiber. And we need to get back to that. And the way to get back to that is to put ourselves back in sync with the biorhythm of the earth and to follow our intuition. And until we know ourselves, we cannot truly know anyone or anything else. So having said that, you can contact me at canarychronicles.outlook.com. I have a show that runs on ucy.tv.canarychronicles. It's all archived. You can go and listen anytime. I have a show on Tuesdays and on wideawakenews.com, and that's on Tuesdays at 5 p.m. They also have all the shows go to YouTube, so you can go and find the videos on YouTube. You can find my website at DinahEverettSnyder.org. You can go and read up my veteran study at DinahEverettSnyder.wordpress.com. Thank you all, everybody, very much. This was a fantastic roundtable and day.
Thanks, Dinah. You're always so easy to listen to. Your voice, your accent, and your knowledge is easy to digest. Before we go, and I want Am, please, and Dinah to stick around for the close of our show. We've got a special guest coming in for a minute. She is a major part of why we are here. She helped kind of kick this whole thing off. Karen Quintostado, how have you been, and what are your closing thoughts for today?
Hi, I've been busy. I've really enjoyed hearing this roundtable as I got back and finished putting things away and getting stuff together. And I just am so happy that this is still ongoing. And I agree with Dinah saying that we used to be in sync with things, and I think now we've been conned into being in stink with things. And it's time to back off of that. And the only thought really that I would like people to consider is, as we look to Christmas, what gift would be really the gift, the best gift of all? And in my opinion, it's the understanding that even though many of us believe that we're spirit and there's something that happens after we die, we don't know for certain until we get there. And if we believed that we are spirit, then this is our chance. This three-dimensional reality is our chance to really create a paradise. And if so many of us were not conned into thinking our rewards come later, I had a month-long series, Jesus, Man or Myth, Does It Matter? And many people said, no, it doesn't matter. To me, it does. It matters that there are at least 25 saviors who predate Jesus with the same story of a virgin birth, teaching early, 12 disciples, killed by the state, resurrection. Really consider that. Consider that the Flavians who followed the Julio-Claudio line and stepped into the emperorship were also into being considered as gods. They had a Roman imperial court. You know, if we were not really thinking that there was a big reward coming after we die, we would not put up with the crap we have now, the criminals running all politics. So when you think about what kind of gift would really be a wonderful gift for Christmas, in my opinion, it is the joy of being. Not just overbroke, but the joy of being good stewards of our planet, which has nothing to do with how many pieces of colored metal or paper we own. So I want to encourage people to really, truly think about that. We don't know what will happen after we die, but what we do know is we're screwing up big time by allowing our world to be destroyed. And also, for those who believe we're going to heaven later, consider keeping your head down and allowing your world to be trashed and then dying and expecting to get into the penthouse later. I mean, what kind of landlord's going to put up with that anyway? So,
Yeah.
Merry Christmas, Happy New Year, Happy Healthy New Year, and honestly think about what we can do here and now in this reality when we stop living to die and allow that whatever happens then will happen. We won't know till we're there, but in the meantime, let's live to live, and let us gift ourselves with just stopping the madness, agreeing not to harm one another, and getting back to cleaning up our world. And thank you very much, Matt. Merry Christmas, everyone.
Yeah, Merry Christmas, Karen. It's always good to hear your voice and your passion. That's one thing that I think a lot of people latched onto when you first started this. And I recall hearing you on Alex's show. I was already involved with you by the time you got there. But I remember hearing you on Michael Rivera's show, and you still have that passion. And I believe within the first one or two emails that I ever sent you, being that I was the first person to ever get a hold of you to do all of this, I recall telling you that your passion is infectious, and that passion is part of that love that I was talking about earlier that helps people connect with the next person to help teach them about GMOs, about vaccines and such. It's always good to hear, Karen.
Well, thank you, Matt. It's good to hear you, too, and thank you for stepping in. And thank you also, Gary. I know you had a long haul today, and so did Detlef.
Yeah, thanks, Gary. Your closing thoughts, Gary? Your websites, what do you do?
Well, I've been known to have what's referred to in the South as a helium hand. And somebody says, "Anybody take this one here?" And my hand goes up. One of these days I'm going to learn my lesson, and but it seems like that hand always seems to go up. But yeah, on the internet, I have a pseudonym, a nom de plume. I am Smart Scarecrow. And if you run your favorite search on Smart Scarecrow, you're probably going to find about 10 years of my ranting and ravings out there. I do a Monday evening segment with Wide Awake News that's broadcast on the Rents Radio Network. And besides that, I do a Thursday evening audio-video presentation that features alternative energy issues. And when I'm not doing that, I'm pushing buttons for a whole lot of other people who, I won't involve in my dissertation. But yeah, this is one of them. And it's like so many other things. No one person can possibly wrap their heads around all the issues that are out there. Best I can do is pick one or two, make them my own, and try to take those issues on, confront them, try to change something for the better. At this stage in my life, I'm looking at at that precipice where there's not a whole lot of it left, and I'm just trying to make the world at least as good as I leave as what I found it, and I'm finding that to be a challenge, but we do the best we can.
Well, we appreciate your time and effort doing that, Gary. I really thank you for your production today. Yeah, we got off to a rocky start, but those things happen. Don't kick yourself in the teeth too hard for that. If all things were going correctly, I would have been able to step in with to produce for Alan during his segment to relieve you of those consequences. But my computer, I just got back from the shop last night, so
just would have happened a couple hours later.
Yeah. So thank you for all you do, and so in closing, we're on this precipice that not the same one that you're on, Gary, that a different one. Okay, we're on this precipice. either humanity survives or it becomes extinct. There is that drawn of a line. So that all of you here gathered tonight, and all of our hosts and all of our guests that have participated over the years, we're making history, whether you know it or not. This has never been attempted in the history of man, where a group of people from around the world are trying to unite people from around the world with information and peaceful non-compliance so that we can turn around this new world order, okay? So, in closing for this year, I want to thank all of you. My new website is nwodor.com. Please check it out. I'd like to thank Alan James from OIM Radio, who is the genius behind my new website. I'll be able to archive my shows and provide blogs and links to great information, and I'll be able to send out email odor alerts. So if you want to go to the site, subscribe to it. I'll send you email odor alerts about interesting things that might be affecting your life, nwodor.com. And on the first Saturday of every month, I have a program on Wolf Spirit Radio called the New World Odor Report, at the 10 a.m. Pacific time, the first Saturday of every month. Then I'm always here with United We Strike with all these genius level people that I get to party with. So, and thank you to our audience. You know, we appreciate your listening. We appreciate your support. Please share the information that you learn here. Please share the inspiration that you feel here. Please share that with the people you love. What I was saying about love earlier is how we win. This is a spiritual war. This is a spiritual war against good and evil. Evil, new old odor, good people like us. Spread that. Spread that. That's how we win. And in closing, everyone, on the count of 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Death.
Death to the new world order. Thank you.
All right. Good night, y'all.
Good night.
Everybody, happy holidays.
Sing it, Karen.
I'll start with.
All right, now
I never learned all the words to the song, so I'm going to
I did not have Court of the Crimson King but I did find 21st Century Schizoid Man by King Crimson.
That's one of the songs on that album.
So I'm going to take us out on that little ditty. Here we go.
This is United We Strike Radio on the International Community Radio Network. Don't buy, don't comply, ask why. UnitedWeStrike.com Radio.